Several years ago, in the middle of, actually, I think it was like April of 2021, I had a sort of surprising health scare. I was running all over, talking about COVID, talking about these issues. Then I thought I caught COVID. I was really weak. I was having trouble walking across the room. Luckily, some friends of mine, sort of forced me to go to a heart doctor. I didn't end up having a heart issue, but that heart doctor, through blood tests, discovered that my hemoglobin was down to 4.8. They said to me, I got an emergency call in the morning. It was a Thursday morning. I was supposed to be heading to the show in about an hour. I was not feeling very good, but I'm a guy that's like, the show must go on. I'm going to be there. And this doctor said, you aren't going to any show. You need to get to an ER right away. You need emergency blood transfusions. Your hemoglobin should be somewhere between 13 and 17. You're at 4.8. Mandatory emergency infusions start if you're below, I think it was 7. At the time. So I was at 4.8. It was a serious emergency. And I had an issue. I didn't want blood from people that had been vaccinated with the COVID vaccine. I don't want that spike protein in my body, that man-made, manipulated product that was never properly tested. Don't want it. Don't need it. Even though I was like, really on the verge of death. Luckily, a friend of mine called the blood bank here in Austin, and there was only, I think it was 7 total units. I'm B negative, which I guess is pretty rare. So in all of Austin, only about 7 units, and they don't track whether or not there was a COVID vaccine. Luckily, the person at blood bank made some calls and found one by the course of the day. Meanwhile, I was saying, well, look, I know people that have negative blood. My wife is O negative. I could get her blood. And here in Austin, Texas, they said, we can't process it fast enough. It would take 10 days to 2 weeks to process your wife's blood. I called a friend who has a clinic down in Mexico, in Cancun. I said, are they testing blood there? Do they know whether there's a COVID vaccine? He said, let me look into it. As it turns out, they were testing for it. Always amazing when they're more thorough than we are in the United States of America. And he said, and we can turn your wife's blood around in probably under 4 hours. So I flew to Mexico. My wife went with me, and I went down and started getting transfusions in Mexico. A great headline. Top anti-vaxxers' unhinged quest for unvaccinated blood leads into Mexico. Look at this. Dell desperately needed transfusion, but first he had to track down the blood of a donor who hadn't been vaccinated, and his doctor friend in Mexico was ready to oblige. So it made headlines. It's weird, the things that make headlines, but look at that. That dude right there didn't know he was dying, totally green, no oxygen moving through my blood. I think that's only 4 transfusions. I needed 10. About 4 in, I was feeling a heck of a lot better. But this is an issue. Should I have the right to have blood from my wife and people that I know? Should it take, why is it that concierge medicine is much more available in Mexico than it is here in the United States of America? These are questions that are being asked right now, and they're very important for all of us, whether it's about a vaccine issue or some other blood issue may have. This is a recent hearing on a law in Texas. Take a look at this.
Blood is not something most people think about until they need it, and yet 1 in 70 people will require a transfusion each year. So this is no small thing, especially if you have a chronic disease like these girls have, or a condition that requires transfusions regularly.
In situations where someone has a rare blood type or particular blood disease, often it can be difficult to find high-quality blood that may be necessary for them to receive a transfusion.
My daughter sitting here next to me were born with a rare blood disorder called beta thalassemia major. It's a disease where they do not make any blood of their own, and they require transfusions every month for the rest of their lives.
I was born in China with a disease called thalassemia. I had to live in an orphanage until my parents could come and bring me home. When I first got home, I was really sick. Every 2 weeks, I had to go to the hospital to get blood. I still felt awful, but then we found some incredible donors who matched me exactly. I started getting blood. super fresh blood. After I started getting blood from those wonderful people, everything got better.
I was adopted from China when I was 3 years old. Sadly, when I got adopted, I was very sick because the orphanage I was in couldn't take me to go get blood. I was adopted after my sister when I got my first transfusion. They found out I have harder blood to match than my sister. One time they gave me bad blood that didn't match exactly, and I had a bad reaction. I couldn't breathe, and I had bumps all over me. After that happened, my mom told the doctors I was going to get special blood like my sister. It was hard to find my special blood, but my mom finally found enough. And after that, I stopped getting sick all the time too.
Direct donation is the collection of blood with the intention of it going to a specific individual. Unfortunately, many hospitals and blood banks are recently refusing to fulfill physician-prescribed and ordered autologous and direct donations, despite the fact that they are legal, safe, and have a long history of prior use.
2 years ago, our lives got turned upside down. Carter Blood Care called me out of the blue and told me that our donors could no longer donate blood to our girls anymore, even though for the past 10 years they had agreed to let us do that. Almost immediately after their first transfusion with anonymous blood, their health rapidly began to decline.
It was so awful. I slept all summer long. I had itches. I itched all the time. I had terrible sores in my mouth, and I even told my mom I couldn't live like this anymore, which made my mom cry every day.
When they took our donors away 2 years ago, I got super scared. Faith got super sick, and I just was too tired to do anything. All I wanted to do was sleep. I prayed and prayed every day that we would get our special blood again.
There's a growing number of situations where entities within the blood donation industry have made the business financial decision to override the doctor's order for the directed donor blood, effectively keeping the doctor from practicing medicine in the best interest of their patient.
We had to change blood banks, hospitals, and doctors, which was a little scary, but I got my special blood back. Now I feel great.
For the past 18 months, the girls have gotten their direct donors back, and they've absolutely thrived. It's mind-blowing to see the positive changes in them compared to 2023.
I'm in the junior high. I play volleyball and basketball. I'm a cheerleader, and I have enough energy to run track this year. No one at my school would ever know I have thalassemia. I'm so happy. I feel like a normal kid now.
I love gymnastics, but probably the best part about getting my special blood back is having the energy to annoy my family with my constant giggling and goofiness. I also talk a lot. The worst part about not getting my special blood was seeing my mom cry and worry so much. I don't ever want to go through that again.
Well, obviously a very important hearing. I am joined now, it's my honor and pleasure to be joined by Liz James, who is the founder and president of Blessed by His Blood, and Tanya Lair, the mother of the two beautiful kids that we saw there. Tanya, Liz, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Liz, I think about back in the movies, car accident, television shows, people would be like, find neighbors and friends that had the right blood type so that you could donate blood and help the person out. The system seems to have changed, but tell me a little bit about, before we get started, your company, Blessed by His Blood. What is it?
So and first of all, thank you for having us today. We are 100% not-for-profit cooperative, meaning we know there's nobody that gets a salary or any benefit from this other than we know we're doing the right thing.
Okay.
And what we do is we match donors and recipients for people who have chosen to abstain from mRNA technology.
Okay.
And we are nationwide.
So nationwide, if you need a blood transfusion, you match up people that have the same blood type. Is that essentially
correct?
How this works?
We work within our cooperative membership, and we're a faith-based. Although you don't have to be of Christian faith to be a member, but we are modeled after John 15:13, which is no man has greater love than to give his life for his friend. And we jokingly say, you're not giving your life, you're just giving a pint of blood and a couple hours of your time. And we've just had some really beautiful stories come out in the last 2.5 years since we've been doing this.
I never would have thought I would need a company like yours or a nonprofit like yours until I went through the health crisis that I did. Tanya, what was this debate that's taking place about?
So basically, when we adopted our two daughters, we found directed donors who had been donating blood for our girls for 10 years. And there was 0 issues. The girls were thriving, they were healthy, they were doing great. They were actually healthier than other patients who have the same blood disorder in the wide DFW area because of what we were doing. And without reason, suddenly one day they called me up and said, hey, sorry, your direct donors can no longer donate blood for your daughters. There was no explanation as to why, nothing, just you're cut off, end of story. And so this bill that we were created, that Liz actually went to, we hadn't even met each other. I didn't even know there was a bill. She was fighting for this right to, something that we've had in this country since 1980. She was fighting for this bill and for all people who need chronic transfusions, or if anyone needs a transfusion from, an operation, or if they have cancer or anything, that they would be allowed to choose their donor, which we have been doing since the 80s in this country.
Are there states where, like here in Texas, what are you actually fighting for?
It's really not a state-by-state problem.
Okay.
It tends to be a blood center by blood center problem. And what we have is even a corporate entity making medical decisions in a blanket way. And so
one size fits all, which is what I'm completely against.
This is exactly right. And not just that, but taking away the right for the doctor to practice medicine as they best see fit, as well as the patient's own rights. I mean, if you're saying you do not have the right to choose, and you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, the hard place and the rock being, if you don't receive a transfusion, you will die. That is quite a conundrum, and it's also not a great time to have to make that decision. I mean, you're under stress already, and one of the things that doctors should be doing, and anybody in healthcare should be doing, is creating less stress in a patient, not more stress. If you're in a car wreck and you're bleeding out, you're going to get whatever you're going to get. Sure. Unless you have something on that says you're a Jehovah's Witness or something like that, which the Jehovah's Witness, and there's a protocol called the Jehovah's Witness protocol. But if you're Jehovah's Witness,
what is that protocol? I'm curious, how do they survive a situation like that?
Well, in some cases they don't. But they absolutely do not take tissue or blood.
Okay.
But as anybody else in the public can also opt into the Jehovah's Witness protocol, and the Jehovah's Witness protocol is a little bit different depending on the situation. Is because the question is, why do you need blood? So for somebody like Faith or Melee, who don't make red blood cells, it would not behoove them to receive an erythropoietin promoting product that would promote the production of red blood cells, because their body doesn't make it. But there are other things that they might be able to do, not for the girls because they have a very specific problem going on, but for somebody who's going through chemotherapy or who has anemia, there's tranexamic acid, there's platelet producing drugs, there's iron infusions. There are lots of other things that can be done depending on the individual. And you can ask for those things too. There's radial embolization, where they can embolize certain vessels. There's also something called cell saver technology, where you can, if you know that you're going into a surgery, they can actually harvest the blood as you're bleeding out, clean it in like kind of a dialysis cleaning situation, it's through a perfusionist, and then put it back in. That's actually the safest way you can receive a transfusion, is for them to clean your own blood and just put it right back in again.
Interesting. What is the argument that's being made? I mean, your daughters are giving this incredible testimony. What argument's being made? No, sorry, young ladies.
So if you watch the rest of the hearing, you can hear, because all of the politicians asked these people from that particular blood bank why. And their biggest thing that they said is, well, people lie. And the people people lie.
Directed donor blood is not safer than the voluntary blood donors that we have. They have a 2 to 7 times higher risk of infectious diseases. And the critical elements when you donate blood is to fill out a donor questionnaire and also the testing that we do. But directed donors are incentivized to donate, and they have been found to be more likely to not be truthful on that donor questionnaire. Now, we do test all blood for infectious diseases, but there are window periods for each infectious disease. HIV and hepatitis C, 10 days, hepatitis B up to 24 days. So it's possible for a donor to be infected with these viruses and not test positive. That's where this donor questionnaire becomes very, very important because we're evaluating the risk. So if a donor is incentivized to donate, they may not be truthful. And this is why you see an increased risk of directed donor blood.
And so the people that are closest to you are motivated to donate for you, and so they're going to lie about their extracurricular habits. And that is just wild to me, because let me just tell you who our donors are. Whenever we brought the girls home and they were not thriving, our hematologist at the time actually came to us and said, listen, your girls have rare antigens on their blood. They're difficult to match, and we don't always have a bag sitting on the shelf ready to give one of your girls. And if we do, sometimes the bag that they had was going to expire the next day. So if you give a patient a bag of blood that is fixing to expire, you're giving them empty red blood cells that do them absolutely no good, and all you do is create iron overload, which is a big problem for chronically transfused patients because iron collects in every major organ that you have, and there's absolutely no way to get the iron out except to bleed or take really dangerous chelator medications. So she said, if you find some donors that match your daughters exactly, then we can solve this problem, because they can go in and donate the week before. We'll always have the blood on hand. It'll be fresh and they'll do great. And so I had a mission and I did it. So I didn't ask close friends and family. I did a Facebook poll that was public, and I asked people if they had any kind of calling to come do something good for these little girls who were not thriving to help us. People came out of the woodwork, because at the core of every human being, we all are created to do good. And so people genuinely, I feel, want to be good people deep down, everybody. And so these strangers came out of the...
You believe in humanity too. It's kind of the whole point of my perspective today,
and
right?
so these people came out of the woodworks to help us, and we tested hundreds of donors. And we didn't find hundreds of donors, but we did test that many. And we found a few that matched exactly, which was really, really hard to do. And it didn't happen overnight. It took us a while to find these donors. But these donors faithfully, some of them I have yet to this day to meet them face to face.
Wow.
And they, I don't have any money. I have 7 children. we don't have gifts to give people. So I just thank you so much for everything that you're doing for us. That is the text message I send, and it's genuine, and they know it, and that is it. They've never met my girls, and they don't care. They genuinely want to help our kids, and that's it. But this blood bank says that, oh, well, they're going to lie. What's interesting, and I'm just going to add this, is that I was writing up here with Liz, and she got a phone call from a blood bank, and they said, hey, we know you donated a couple weeks ago, but we need some platelets. There is a shortage of platelets. We'll give you 2 $30 gift cards if you'll come do it right now. Right now. We need it right now. And if you do that, we're also going to put your name in a hat for an all-expense-paid vacation trip for 2 to the Super Bowl. Yep. Come on, let's do it. And she said, she couldn't, and well, why not? But you need to. And so,
they were pretty pushy.
Yeah.
And I actually get that call about every 3 or 4 weeks.
But what's crazy is that they're incentivizing anonymous donors. They're incentivizing everybody.
The entire process is anonymous. The fact that you lie as though somehow that lie is going to permeate the blood that's going to be tested for antigen, all the issues. Yes. Anyway, it's going to go through the same blood test as anyone else. And why is anyone that knows you or doesn't have any greater propensity to lie than someone that's trying to pick up some ticket? But that says to me there's huge funding behind it. There's something bigger than what we're seeing. This isn't just about, we're a blood company, we want to help people donate blood. Where's the cash cow that I'm not seeing?
So this is very important,
Yeah.
and this is what people don't understand. I think blood is maybe the only industry where somebody is giving something away altruistically, and it is turned and sold.
Okay.
And the United States supplies 70% of the world's blood products.
Around the rest of the world.
70% of
Wow.
the world's blood products. In terms of commodity, it's ahead of gold and coal.
Really?
That is correct. And in addition to that, only about 20% of blood total that's collected in a community actually stays in the community. But it's not just sold overseas, it's sold to big pharma, and it's sold for research. And the big pharma component is really interesting, and I have quite a lot of experience in it. I'm a pharmacist, and that I realized back in 2012, the biologics, which is a class of pharmaceuticals that is the fastest growing, most profitable aspect of pharmaceuticals that we have now. About 10 to 20% of those biologics are actually made from human blood. And that in itself is concerning, because it's not just like, if I give blood, it's not just my blood going into one person's pharmaceuticals, it's batched in vats.
Sure.
And so it's literally untrackable. And that creates a whole other set of problems.
Is it, I mean, so when people donate blood, how much value can that have? They're giving away football tickets. Do we have a sense of, like, overseas, is blood worth more than it is here?
That is very interesting. So contract prices, and the blood industry is very tight-lipped on pricing.
Okay.
I have been able to acquire some pricing from various hospitals, and on average, a contract pricing runs about $700 a bag. But if I'm donating to you and it's a direct donor situation, that barcode bag belongs to you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an anonymous donor bag, they can look at my bag and say, oh, there's something unique about this bag. I have like all of these antigens, perhaps I'm unvaccinated, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know I will only get $700 by giving it to you, Dell, or I can make $4,000 because of these unique properties by donating to this pharmaceutical company who is looking for those particular things, or somebody overseas or whatever. And on top of that, I will say I was at an event a few months ago talking to a doctor, and one of her patients had gone overseas to have a procedure done. She said that she wanted unvaccinated blood on standby, and they said, well, that will be an additional $70,000.
Wow.
So I don't know, that's an anecdotal story,
Sure.
but she came back with that information. So that, if true, and I believe it probably is, if true, that says that, of course, all blood is different. I mean, and there are...
So when you go and donate blood, they're studying it, and it starts getting categorized into having
exactly
different special
right.
needs.
That's exactly
I'm
right.
curious with your daughters. You said that once they went on to sort of the pooled blood, if you will, or like not direct donor, that they started having health issues. What is wrong? Why is that blood not as good? Do you know where it's coming from, or why they would be having health issues?
So according to where they were going, they said that they matched it down to the last antigen. So I hope that they did. But I did read the expiration dates of the bags because I was very curious at that time what it was. And the expiration date on one of the bags was 2 days from the day we got it, even though they assured me that they were going to have the freshest blood available, and they didn't. And so for a person who gets chronically transfused, you need the freshest blood. You also need blood from a healthy donor. So another thing we have in our population is the most people that donate blood are usually over the age of 65. And why is that? Is because you're retired and you're like, you know what, I got nothing better to do. I want to give back. Okay. But the 20, 30, and 40-year-olds don't typically go donate. Why? Because they're busy. They're working. Yeah. They don't want to take 2 hours out of their day to drive and then sit there and then have to drink some juice and do all the things you have to donate. It's just not convenient.
Yeah.
And so those are the people that don't donate. So basically, when we got a bag of blood that was anonymous, I don't know who it came from, but the girl's hemoglobin was tanking. And so a pre-transfusion hemoglobin for my girls, for them to actually be able to thrive, needs to be above 10. Theirs was coming in at 7. That's not compatible with any quality of life whatsoever. A normal hemoglobin for a person who does not have a blood disease, for a female is about 13, for a male is 14 or higher. So they had no quality of life. So they laid around all summer long. One of my daughters got fever blisters. Well, that comes from a particular virus. That virus is not one of the viruses that's
Somebody lied.
Yeah,
It's not one that's tested.
It's not one
Right,
that's tested.
sure.
So there's certain diseases that they test for in the blood, but there's a lot of them that they don't. And the CEO of this particular blood bank that we were having issues with went on stage and said, there is a 10-day window for HIV that we don't know if someone donates. There is a 12 to 14 day for hepatitis C, and there's a 24-day window for hepatitis B. And that is a random donor off the street who decides, I want to go do a good thing today and donate. My donors have been doing this for 10 years. So if they had one of those problems, they would have been screened out by now.
Right.
So their arguments are completely invalid. They make absolutely no sense. They also argued that it was so expensive. Like, this is so much more expensive to do this. And basically they're tagging with a special little tag, and they're putting it on a shelf. And the blood that goes to the hospitals, blood goes to hospitals all the time. So you're not hiring an extra courier
Right.
or paying those fees or anything. So there's no extra cost. The only extra cost that I had in that particular situation is they made me pay $111 to donate my own blood with a money order. I could not do a credit card, a check, or anything. Had to be a money order.
All right, well, obviously, this is something that I think we all need to be focused on. Again, this is just about, I think, sort of corporate capture of things that we think should just be wide open and free, especially here in the United States of America. How do people follow the work that you're doing? They just go to...
It's www.blessedbyhisblood.com.
Okay, awesome. Look, if you guys will stick around, I'd love to have an off the record. I'd love to know what it's like to adopt out of China. That's got to be quite a ride, and sort of what inspired you to start.
Thank you.
Blessed by His Blood. I want to thank you for joining us
Thank you.
today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.